I still remember that night. Not because anything dramatic happened. There was no argument, no big announcement, no aha moment. Just a man, my husband, standing at the bathroom sink, holding a spoon. He wasn't crying. He wasn't smiling. He just stood there, quietly. The lights were dim. His back was slightly curved, like it often is after a long day. And in that moment, watching him from the doorway, I saw something I hadn't seen in weeks. Not strength, not energy, but a trace of hope. He didn't say anything, but after nearly 40 years together, he didn't have to. I knew what that spoon meant. It meant he hadn't given up, and neither had I. I don't know what brought him to that decision. Maybe it was the way he'd been waking up every morning, frustrated and quiet. Maybe it was the way I'd started pretending I was already asleep, just to avoid the silence between us in bed. But that night, something changed. Not outside, not yet, but inside him. A decision to try. Just one spoon, a small one, before bed. And the tiniest flicker of maybe, just maybe. If you've ever looked at the man you love and wondered where he's gone, not physically, but emotionally, then I hope this story means something to you. Because what happened next changed everything. But before I continue, I want to say this. If you're someone who still believes in quiet love, in second chances, in trying again, then I invite you to stay with me. And if this already speaks to something in your heart, please like this video, leave a comment, or subscribe. You're not alone, and neither is he. For months before that night, I had watched him slowly become someone I didn't recognize, not because he changed overnight, but because he stopped showing up. He was still in the house, still at the table, but there was a silence to him, a heaviness I couldn't name. He wasn't angry, he wasn't sad, just distant. He'd fall asleep early, or at least pretend to. Mornings used to start with a smile or a teasing comment about my coffee. Now they started with long stares and slow steps. I noticed things, even if I didn't say them. How he started avoiding mirrors, how he stopped reaching for me under the covers, how the morning signal I used to quietly check for was gone. It's strange how something physical can carry so much emotion. When that part of him faded, it felt like his whole self was slipping away. I wanted to ask, but I didn't know how. How do you say to the man you've loved for decades, I miss feeling close to you. I miss feeling like you're still you. Instead, I made small changes. Cooked his favorite dinner on random Tuesdays. Held his hand a little longer than usual at the grocery store. Played his old records when I knew he was sitting in the next room. But nothing pulled him back. Not until that night. Not until that spoon. Looking back now, I realize he wasn't just losing his confidence. He was grieving the part of himself he thought was gone forever. And as his wife, that quiet grief, it broke me more than any argument ever could. But sometimes, the most profound changes don't begin with fireworks. They begin in silence, in a choice made alone, at a sink, with a spoon. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I had just folded the laundry and set aside his favorite old t-shirt, the soft gray one he always wore on Sunday mornings, back when he still believed mornings had something waiting for him. That night, he didn't go to bed early like usual. Instead, he stayed in the kitchen, quiet but not withdrawn. I was rinsing dishes when he finally said it. "Hon, I'm going to try something. No pills, just natural stuff." I turned around. He was holding a small jar. It looked homemade, dark red, like the color of beetroot and cinnamon and something a little earthy. The kind of red that feels like it came from the earth, not from a store. He didn't explain what it was. He just looked at me and added almost shyly, "It's supposed to help with circulation." That's all he said. But I knew what he meant. After all, we hadn't said the word out loud in months, not circulation, not intimacy, not performance. And yet, in that moment, he said all of it, without needing to say a thing. I didn't question. I didn't tease. I simply nodded and reached for a glass of water, placed it next to the jar, and whispered, "I hope it helps." Then I turned away, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't want him to see the tears that came so suddenly. Not of sadness, but of quiet relief. He took one spoon, just one, stirred it gently, closed his eyes as he swallowed, and then he went to bed. No speech, no guarantee, just a small, brave gesture. A man choosing to try again. The next morning felt different. Not dramatically, not loudly, but like the house had exhaled. Finally. I woke up to the sound of dishes clinking gently. That might not sound like much, but after weeks of waking up to silence, it was everything. I walked into the kitchen and there he was, already dressed, making coffee, and humming. Just a soft, almost forgotten tune. One he used to hum when we were first married, before work, before kids, before life got heavy. He looked up at me, surprised, like he'd been caught doing something foolish. And I smiled. Because for the first time in weeks, his eyes weren't tired. His shoulders stood a little higher, his step a little firmer. And when he handed me my cup of coffee, his hand lingered, just for a second longer than usual. I didn't say anything, neither did he. But I knew, and he knew I knew. That signal I used to check for, quietly, hopefully, each morning. It was back. Not because of magic, not because of some overnight miracle, but because he had made a choice to try, to trust something natural, to believe he could still feel like himself again. That morning wasn't about performance. It was about presence. He was there again, not just in the kitchen, but in spirit. And as I watched him move around, humming that old tune, I thought to myself, sometimes healing doesn't shout. Sometimes it whispers. And if you're quiet enough, you'll hear it returning, one note at a time. You might be wondering, what was actually in that spoon? It wasn't anything strange, no chemicals, no complicated powders, just real things. From the earth, from the kitchen. The first thing he told me was cayenne pepper. Only a pinch, just a quarter teaspoon. It opens the blood, he said. I didn't need the science. I just remembered how it made his cheeks a little pink, and how warm his hands felt when he held mine later that day. Next came beetroot juice, fresh, deep purple red. He said it helped his body breathe better, like his blood could finally move where it had forgotten to go. Then came pomegranate, 2 spoonfuls of this ruby juice that looked like it had been kissed by sunlight. He told me it wasn't just for his heart, but for his mind too. He said he felt clearer, less foggy, more here. Rosemary surprised me. I've always used it in roast chicken, but steeped as tea, it became something else. A kind of warm mist that seemed to wake up his thoughts. He added just a teaspoon of finely ground coffee, not brewed, just raw, not for the caffeine, but for the bitterness, that bold, earthy edge that made everything else taste alive. Then orange juice, fresh squeezed, sweet and sunny. It balanced the heat, gave the mix a softness, the way sunshine softens winter chill. And finally, raw honey. 1 generous spoon, the binder, the gentler, the one that held it all together and helped it go down smooth. He mixed it all in a little bowl, slowly. No rush, no noise, just intention. And that's what I realized. It wasn't just what was in the spoon. It was why he took it. It wasn't just to fix something. It was to reclaim something, to wake up parts of himself, gently, naturally, 1 sip at a time. There's something sacred about the hours after the lights go out, the stillness, the softness, the way the world finally goes quiet. And that's exactly when his healing began. Not during the rush of the day, not while he was distracted by the news, the bills, or the hum of the fridge, but while he slept. You see, while he rests, his heart isn't racing, his mind isn't running, and his body isn't busy being strong for everyone else. That's when the blood can finally flow freely, to the parts that had been forgotten, to the places that once brought connection, pride, and joy, but had gone quiet for too long. That's when the cayenne could gently open the vessels, when the beetroot could help carry oxygen to every hidden edge, and the pomegranate could soften the walls that had grown tired. It's like the body was waiting for the world to pause, just so it could remember how to come alive again. He didn't feel a jolt. There was no sudden burst of energy like with caffeine or pills. Instead, it was like a slow ember catching flame, steady, quiet, warm from the inside. And the next morning, he didn't jump out of bed, but he stood taller, moved slower, but more intentionally, and smiled, really smiled, when I asked how he slept. It felt like my body remembered something, he said, and I thought, sometimes the best things don't happen while we're doing more. They happen when we finally allow the body to receive. 1 spoon, before bed, and something started flowing again, not just in him, but between us. At first, it was subtle. He started making jokes again, not the loud kind, but the quiet ones, the kind only I would catch across the room, the kind he used to make when we were young and everything was still new. He began reaching for my hand more, sometimes while we watched TV, sometimes while walking down the aisle at the grocery store. No words, just a gentle squeeze, as if to say, "I'm still here." And I felt it, the return of a rhythm, not just in his step, but in our home. He wasn't just performing better, as people like to call it. No, he was showing up better, with more presence, more warmth, more of that quiet strength I had fallen in love with so many years ago. And I'll be honest, it wasn't just him who changed. It was me too. Because when a man starts to believe in himself again, his wife feels it. In the way he looks at her, in the way he laughs, in the way he doesn't turn away at night anymore. We didn't talk about fixing anything. We didn't need to. We just started being close again, in small, real ways that reminded us we were still a team. He wasn't a different man. He was just himself again, unhidden, unashamed, still gentle, still capable, still mine. And every time he took that spoon before bed, it wasn't just about circulation or energy. It was a quiet promise to himself and to me that he hadn't given up, and neither had I. If you're watching this right now, maybe it's because something inside you has gone quiet. Maybe not completely, but enough to make you wonder, is that part of me gone? Let me tell you something. As a wife, as a woman who has loved through the silence, through the turning away, through the quiet ache of not knowing what to say, I see you, not the younger you, not the man in his prime, but the man who's still here, who still wants to feel alive, who still deserves to. This isn't about fixing you. You are not broken. You are not past your time. You're simply in a moment that asks for more care, more listening, more truth, and maybe just one small step, like 1 spoon before bed, something gentle, something real, not to chase youth, but to honor who you still are, the man who shows up, who keeps trying, who still has warmth to give and love to receive. So if you've been fading quietly, I hope this story reminds you, you haven't disappeared, you are still here, and maybe, tonight, with one small choice, you begin to return, not just for her, but for you. If this touched something inside you, just leave a quiet note below. I'm still here. You don't have to say more, but we'll know what you mean. And if you'd like more stories like this, for the heart, for the body, for the soul, you're welcome to stay. Subscribe, like, or just be with us quietly. Whatever you choose, know this: you matter, you're not alone, and your story is still being written.